Hey everybody, how's it going? Tonight, I should say, it's like 10:45 right now on a Wednesday night. But I've had a fish that hasn't been eating very much the past couple days, and she's starting to look a little more unhealthy. And the more I look at her, I kind of want to put her in a quarantine. And I've had a 10-gallon that I've been meaning to set up for quarantine, but I hadn't done it yet. So tonight, what we're going to do is set up this little 10-gallon quarantine tank here in our row of fish tanks now. But it's not going to be a very in-depth video. It's late. I got to get up early for work and stuff in the morning. So what we're going to do is kind of make a short video, or as short as I can make it tonight, of us just setting up this little 10-gallon here, and then we're going to move the fish over in the morning. Yeah, so we're going to hop into it. Let's go. So here's what we're working with. Nothing fancy. Just a little filter, a large air stone, although I don't need this much air. It's just currently what I've got at the house, and a small little air, or a small heater here, and some air line. And our pump is sitting here. Here's our pump we're going to be using. It's just a little smaller pump. I know I still have not given you guys a full update on the tanks yet. I do plan on recording that soon. It might be a little bit noisy. This tank evaporates pretty quick because I don't have a lid on it yet. That'll be coming eventually as well. Working on a really tight budget right now, so stuff like that I'll have to wait. Just kind of doing what I can get by with what I have for now. But once this gets rolling a little bit more, I will definitely be putting some more money into the fish stuff. But for now, we're working with what we've got. So let's get this quarantine tank set up. So first things first, we're gonna take our air pump and position it. Yeah, ignore the deep fryer. It's got a temporary home underneath here for the time being, until I get this room figured out a little bit more. We're just gonna put the air pump around here, probably something like that. Just run the air line to the back and up. Oh, make sure I get the correct cord. Yeah, okay. So here's our cord for the air pump. I'm gonna go ahead and fish it behind the 20 here a little bit. And then underneath the 20 is where we are going to be powering this. So there's the, sorry guys, a little shaky cam here. I'll try to edit it, but that's where the power will be going for this whole setup. So the pump is in place. I think next what I want to do is go ahead and measure out our air line. So to measure out the air line, what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put one end into the pump. Maybe like so. Just kind of like we were doing last videos. All this is just a different tank this time. So now that we've got that end in, I'm gonna fish this up here. We're gonna fish that air hose straight up the back. So now that our air hose is up, it's gonna be a bad shadow too because of the lighting in here, but so we fish this up the back, run the air hose down. Might as well go ahead and suction cup this as well. I'm gonna run the air hose along the edge of the heater. Running along the edge of the heater, probably about here, and just right into the air filter there, or air stone there. See how much slack. We've got a lot of slack down there, so we need to pull up some of this slack so we're not wasting a bunch of hose. Sorry guys, my camera work is not going to be on point tonight. I'm just trying to hurry and get this done so it can get cycled and I can go to bed and put her in here in the morning. So we've got, we still got quite a bit of slack, don't we? I'll give you guys the through the glass cam again real quick. Let's get some. There we go. Did you see the length come out of that? So now we've got our slack out. And actually, that camera angle might work good there for a minute. Or, hold on. We've got our kink out of the back of our line. So we're going to run this through. And about here, I'd say you want to cut it. You always want to keep a little bit of extra line, just in case you end up moving your air pump or your air stone or any little minor adjustments you end up doing. So we'll say about, sorry, it is really dark in here. Say about there. Make our cut. Move this extra line out of the way. Okay, so we got our line now. Actually, and you know, while I'm at it, since I was just on the check valve ordeal, go ahead and bust another one of these bad boys out. So that way, you can throw a check valve down at the bottom, which means we'll go back in a minute and redo that bottom portion. But that's a simple fix. We won't even have to grab more line. We should be able to just cut a section of what we've got down there and plug it straight in. So now we've got this set up. Usually what I do, just to kind of keep my hoses and wiring somewhat organized in the backs, I will actually just use like clear tape and just run some clear tape along it and tape down whatever section I need taped down, just to kind of keep it more organized. I have this cord wrapped around this heater. While I was storing it, so now it's all twisted. But yeah, I'm just gonna run the line kind of straight down here and straight down here. And then I will get those taped up eventually. We've got the filter. Okay, so we've got that set up. We got the air hose hooked up. It's not pretty. It's not gonna be pretty. But for the purposes of getting a corn tank set up, it will work. Okay, so the hoses are on up here. The power wire for the heater is ran down. And the wire for the air, or for the filter, ran down. So what we're gonna do real quick is I'm gonna unplug this and put our valve in real quick, because I forgot to do that a minute ago. Okay, so to install this valve, just like last video, we're gonna unplug the pump. We're just gonna make this real simple. Just cut a section of line. We've got airflow that way, so I'll flip that around and install our tubing there, just like that. So that way, when this goes in to our air pump, the water goes out, or the air goes out. So we're gonna plug right back into our air pump with that end, and this end is gonna go back into where we cut off. Like I said, not gonna get super in depth on that part, because that's literally what last video was about. So we've got that ran now. So now that we have the tank set up, as far as placement, I've got my chemicals out here. We've got some salt, some C-Chem Prime, and some API Quick Start. I'm sure most of you hobbyists know what all this does. I'll explain it real quick. Quick Start, as it says, it gets your ammonia and nitrite out of the water for, you know, it says you can add fish instantly. I still don't. Usually I give it at least 24 hours after using this stuff. The C-Chem Prime removes your chlorine and chloramine from the water, also helps with ammonia and nitrates and nitrites and all that. And then your salt here basically just helps gill function. It kind of helps the fish build up some immune well, not really immune. It more or less keeps the water clean. It kind of can hurt their immune system in the long run, I think, but I don't know. I usually use a little bit in all my tanks just to kind of help keep them hopefully cleaner. But recently I've had bad luck with like 2 different fish. But yeah, let's get ready to fill the tank. Okay, so we've got our first bucket of water, our 5-gallon bucket here. I went ahead and plugged in the air pump to start the air bubbler. So that way, when we start to pour our water in, we don't have issues with water getting up into the airline. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here and grab our Seachem Prime and our API Quick Start. And we're gonna go ahead and, when I do them, I just dose per bucket as I change water or as I'm filling a new tank or however I'm doing it. So with Quick Start, you wanna use 5 milliliters per 5 gallon. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the camera down and do that real quick. So now that our 5 milliliters of Quick Start is in, we are going to add our 1 milliliter of Seachem Prime, just 1 milliliter. Now the reason we only use 1 milliliter of the Seachem Prime as opposed to 5 milliliters of other products, Seachem Prime is actually a more concentrated solution. So now that we've got our Seachem Prime and our Quick Start in our first 5-gallon bucket, we're going to go ahead and pour this first 5 gallons into the tank. Here we go. Alright, so I'm going to have to set the camera down as I do this, that way I can do it. But I've got you guys sitting right here. So our first 5 gallons is going to go in. Let's see how big of a mess I can make. There it is, first 5 gallons. As you can see, no, there's no rock or decorations or anything like that. For now, this tank is going to be strictly quarantined. So basically, you don't put anything in there, so that way you can always monitor the fish. You can see, if there's other bacteria in there and whatnot. So basically, it's going to be just a plain Jane, as simple as you can get set up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the second bucket ready and I'll be right back. All right, as you guys can see, the tank is now filled and I've got the heater plugged in, although it's not turned on because I'm sure the water temp is probably about where it needs to be. But yeah, heater's on, air's going obviously. It's not pumping the full block because that pump is not really rated for something that big. If there was a stone that size in there, then it would work perfect. But just because, like I said, that's what I've got, so that's what we've got to use for now. So the tank is pretty much set up. Really, the only thing I got left to do, I got to prime the filter. Yeah, I know it's got some buildup on it already, but that's not a huge deal. Usually, too, when you first start these pumps up, it's like an older one that had been used before, but it still works and stuff. Sometimes they'll have a little bit of junk come out, but I can always scoop that out. But usually when I prime the, well, not usually, always when I prime these filters, what I do is I get a little red Solo cup or whatever, and I just dip some water out of the tank, put it in the filter until it fills up and primes it. I'm not gonna put a filter cartridge in this filter because it's gonna be a quarantine tank, and I am gonna be running meds and stuff through the tank. You don't put your carbon cartridges or anything like that in your filter when you're running medication. But what I just thought about that I am gonna do down here in all my fun supplies somewhere. Yeah, I have these, you can't tell what they are really in here. But I have these filter sponge ends that you can get on Amazon for cheap, just like the one in the 20 here. I'm gonna put one of those on here. I'm gonna put one of those on here, and it'll keep it'll keep the big stuff from just recycling through, and this will catch it, just like a sponge filter on a regular tank. So what we're gonna do is, probably should have installed this earlier, but it doesn't hurt to do it afterwards. I'm gonna install this filter sock, just like that. So I get my hands all wet. I don't know how well you could see that just while I had the phone propped up on the side, but it just slides over your pickup tube. Nothing fancy. So we've got the filter sock on now, and I'm gonna go ahead and prime the filter, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like when we got it going. Okay, so we just got our filter on and primed. So basically, like I was saying, all you gotta do to prime them is you take your red Solo cup and you dip it with water, and you dump the water in there until it fills up and starts to flow out. And then once it does that, you are primed and ready to go. And really, you can see too many particles come out of there, so I think I got it cleaned up pretty good. But yeah, so we've got our sock on there, which, like I said, it'll filter out all the big stuff. And I think one final thing we're gonna do is top the water off just a little bit, because when you first prime your filter, it does lower your water level a good little ways, especially on bigger filters. But top the water off, and then I'm gonna add a external like temperature gauge to the tank, just like you see on any common tank. I'm gonna put one on here, just that way we can see the temperature from the outside. I also have a temperature gun that I can go around, and for example, like this tank here, it's a little cold. I'm in the process. I know it's not a huge deal, but like I said, on a tight budget, I'm in the process eventually here of getting a adjustable thermostat for this tank, so that way I can turn the heat up a little bit. This is just a preset one, just like the one here, except the one over here is a little bit bigger, higher wattage one. That's why I've got it in the 20, because it's, like I said, it's a bigger heater, bigger tank, so that's where that one's at. But eventually they'll get adjustable heaters just like I've got in the 55. But like I said, for now, we work with what we've got. So let's see what this water temp is at currently. 85. So yeah, it's a little warm right now, so the heater won't run much, but like I just filled all this up from the sink, so it's going to be a little high. So with that being said, basically all there is to do now is wait. I'm going to top it off. I'm going to throw a little bit of food in the tank. Now, I know you're saying, why would you throw food in the tank? There's no fish. Well, usually on new tanks that are not set up yet, I always throw a little bit of food in there. Like, so for example, on the 55, I let it set up over a course of about a week, just because I didn't want to throw a couple fish in there and not have it set up properly. So this tank set up for about a week, and then I slowly introduced fish into it. And what I do is I just add a little bit of food to them, just to kind of help the tank grow bacteria quicker, because that's what keeps your fish alive, and that's what keeps your tank healthy is bacteria. So I'm going to add a little bit of food to this as well. I'll show all that being done in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and top the tank off, and then I'll catch back up with you. Alright, so the tank is topped off, and what I'm going to do now is add just a little pinch of food. Just right in the top. Just not much. Just enough so you can say there's food in it. And that'll help build some bacteria, as mentioned. And next, I'm gonna install the thermostat. Alright, so here we have our aquaculture thermometer from 64 to 86. So it's gonna go up here on this side of the tank. I always tend to do them kind of opposite from the heater, so that way you know what your actual whole tank temperature is, not just over where the heater's at, because your tanks can tend to vary, on larger tanks especially, not so much on smaller tanks, but they can tend to vary a little bit. from one side to the other. So I'm gonna just go ahead and put this on this side over here. And to apply it, all I'm gonna do, I got a little bit of rubbing alcohol in here. Spray some rubbing alcohol on the side of the tank. I probably totally just missed that shot. You can see rubbing alcohol here. I'm just gonna rub it in. Make sure it's really clean and dry. Get the rubbing alcohol on there, and that'll help it stick. So we got that on there. We're gonna go ahead and open this. Okay, so now that we're on here, go ahead and stick that temperature gauge on there. Just like that. Cool. It's on there. Let me get you a better view. I just had you sitting on top of the tank. So now we've got our temp gauge on there. It's currently reading about 84, which probably just from me holding it, most of that temperature. But we can check it here with our handy dandy temp gun. So really, it's not too far off. But like I said, that's probably just from me holding it mainly. So yeah, there you have it, guys. That's kind of how you just set a whole tank up, really. The only other difference, you know, from that tank to something like one of these is, you know, decorations. But other than that, it's exactly the same. You got all your basics of any fish tank: air, heat, filtration, and obviously you do the feeding yourself. So I mean, that's a whole tank setup right there, guys. Here in the next video, I will be moving our sick fish into this tank, and it's just a swordtail, you know, a female swordtail. So if something happens, it's not a huge loss. I always just like to take preventative measures to try to save any fish I can. Hate to see them sick, so we'll see what we can do. But I am going to have to treat both tanks for what I believe is velvet, potentially. Maybe ick, but I'm kind of leaning towards velvet. But either way, we're going to treat them for both this tank and the 55, because that's what the fish is in currently. So yeah, we'll do that in the next video. Thanks a lot, guys. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.